Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're looking at a really difficult event based on the materials you've shared, the crash of Air India Flight AI171 near Ahmedabad. That was June 12th, 2025.
Yeah, it's tough material. These documents, the reports, they piece together so many different parts of this story. You've got the terrifying final moment of the flight itself,
Right.
the stories of all the different people on board, that one incredible survival story, the absolute chaos afterwards, and now the really hard questions about why it happened.
Exactly. And that's what we want to do today, sort of walk through this information together, pull out the key facts, of course, but really focus on the human impact. We want to help you understand what unfolded and why it matters so much, drawing on those specific details and powerful stories in the sources.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport, Ahmedabad. It's 1:38 p.m. Indian Standard Time, June 12th, 2025. You have to picture just a regular afternoon, the city moving along.
And Air India Flight AI171, that's a Boeing 787-Dreamliner, registration VTANB, getting ready for its flight to London Gatwick.
That's right. And the plane itself, VTANB, it wasn't brand new, about 11 years old, which is pretty standard.
Had it flown this route before?
Oh yeah, many times. The records show over 700 flights in the last year alone, lots of them Ahmedabad to London. So, routine for the aircraft. On board, 242 people, 230 passengers, 12 crew, all settling in for what should have been a normal 9-hour flight.
But it wasn't normal. Almost immediately after taking off from runway 223, something went terribly wrong.
Horribly wrong. We have descriptions, even some quite chilling CCTV footage, apparently, that shows a sequence. It gets up speed, normally lifts off.
Yeah.
But then it just seems to struggle, really struggle.
How high did it get?
Just 625 feet. That's incredibly low for a plane that size. Barely above the ground, really. Then it started coming back down.
Wow. 625 feet. And there was a Mayday call.
There was. A call went out from the cockpit, but nothing. Air traffic control got no response back. The timeline is just brutal. 30 seconds. From lifting off the runway to impact was just half a minute.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
It's almost unthinkable.
And where it hit, just awful. Not an empty field. It came down 1.5 kilometers from the runway end, straight into a doctor's hostel building at BJ Medical College.
In the Maganani Nagar area.
Exactly. And it was lunchtime, so people were inside.
Oh, no. The descriptions of the immediate aftermath, they sound just horrific.
Apocalyptic is the word used. The building was basically pulverized. And the plane, full of fuel for London, it just ignited. A massive fireball, this huge column of black smoke you could see right across Ahmedabad.
I read witnesses describe the sound, the feeling as like an earthquake.
Yeah, and the sight. Sky was black fire everywhere. Just instant, overwhelming devastation.
And the wreckage, landing gear, wings, the tail section with VTAMB clearly visible, scattered all over.
All over Maganani Nagar. The immediate loss of life was staggering. Everyone on the plane, except for one person, died. That's 241 people.
And on the ground?
At least 8 confirmed fatalities on the ground, including, tragically, 4 medical students who were in that hostel building.
It's hard to process those numbers, which brings us to the people, the individuals on Flight AI171. Reading through this material, it's just story after story of lives cut short.
Absolutely. It's so important to remember, these weren't just numbers. These were people. Like Vijay Rupani, he was the former chief minister of Gujarat, 68 years old.
A major political figure, right? Ally of the PM.
Huge figure. BJP stalwart, born in Rangoon, Jain family background, served as CM from 2016 to 2021. His loss sent shockwaves, obviously. Tributes called him like a father, a grassroots leader. His presence just shows how indiscriminate this was.
And then you see the stories of families highlighting that connection between India and the UK so strongly.
Yes, like the Patel couple from Orpington in Kent. Ashok, 62, a financial advisor, and his wife Shobhana, 60. She was a retired microbiologist. British citizens heading home after visiting family in Gujarat.
Leaving behind sons, grandkids.
Exactly. We read a neighbor talking about Ashok always helping people with their taxes, and Shobhana made, apparently, legendary samosas. It's those little human details.
They really bring it home. And the Nanabawa family from Gloucester.
Oh, that's another just heartbreaking one. Akil, 38, he ran a convenience store there. His wife, Hannah, 36, a stay-at-home mom, and their little girl, Sarah, just 4 years old.
4 years old.
Yeah. Returning from a family wedding in India, people said they were always together, inseparable. And little Sarah's laugh, is apparently everyone remembers her laugh. Their community in Gloucester, just devastated.
And the Joshi family from Derby, this one is just almost unbearable.
It really is. Dr. Pratik Joshi, 42, a consultant radiologist at Royal Derby Hospital. His wife, Komi VS, 38, a former educator.
Yeah.
And their 3 children.
3 young children.
Mariah, who was 8, and the twins, Nakul and Pradut, they were 5. They were all coming back to the UK where Dr. Joshi worked.
Colleagues talked about him being brilliant, but loving simple things like fish and chips, hiking.
And Komi volunteered at the Derby Hindu temple. Losing an entire young family like that, it's just,
Yeah.
hard to find words.
Then there are the stories of young people starting out doing their jobs.
Like Roshni Songhare. She was 28, cabin crew on the flight, but also something of a travel influencer from Dombivli in Maharashtra.
Her last Instagram post, smiling in her uniform at Ahmedabad airport.
That's the one. A real trailblazer for her community, apparently the first to join an international airline. It speaks to the dreams people attach to these jobs. You know, and the crew's dedication.
And Keenal Mistry, the nurse.
Yes, 34 years old, from Anand in Gujarat. She worked in Leicester, was returning after caring for her elderly parents back home. Known for being compassionate, worked extra shifts during the pandemic. Her family's wait for identification. That painful process so many went through.
We also see younger people on really significant journeys.
Right, like Rahul and Priya Sharma, 29 and 27, from Agra, newlyweds. This was their first big trip abroad to London. Saved up for years.
Oh, wow.
Their social media apparently full of pictures at the Taj Mahal just before they left. A dream just ended.
And the siblings from Birmingham, Annika and Rohan Patel?
Yeah, 19 and 16. Just visiting grandparents in Gujarat for the summer. Anika was at uni studying biology. Rohan loved football. Just kids on holiday.
Samir Desai from Surat, 25, heading to Manchester, new tech job, won a visa lottery. A whole new life starting.
Neha Vora, 20, from Rajkot. Off to London for a master's in environmental science. Wanted to help the planet.
And it wasn't just Indian or British citizens, was it?
No, the connection spread wider. There were 7 Portuguese nationals, part of a cultural exchange, led by a historian, Dr. Sofia Mendes, exploring India's heritage.
And a Canadian student.
Emma Chen, 22, from Vancouver. On a gap year, a keen photographer just capturing India.
We should also remember the flight crew specifically.
Absolutely. Captain Sumit Singh Kohli, 54, vastly experienced, over 40 years flying. Co-pilot Sanjay Sabharwal from Delhi, described as seasoned professionals. Along with the cabin crew like Roshni, their families lost loved ones too.
And crucially, the victims on the ground. We mentioned the medical students.
Yes, 4 named. Dr. Priya Patel, 23, and Dr. Arjun Mehta, 24. Both in their final year studying. Just tragic. Plus 2 other hostel residents, a street vendor nearby, and a rickshaw driver, all killed during their lunch hour.
Looking at all these stories together, from former politicians to toddlers, students, families, crew, it just underlines the immense human cost. It shows how interconnected we are, how one flight linked so many places: Orpington, Gloucester, Derby, Agra, Lisbon, Vancouver, and of course Ahmedabad itself, especially that Magani Nagar neighborhood.
And then, amidst all this utter devastation, there's this one fact that almost seems like a mistake in the reports, but isn't. A single survivor.
Vishwashkumar Ramesh, a 38-year-old British national originally from India.
His story is just astonishing. He's a software engineer, lives in London, had been back visiting family. He was in seat 11A. That's a window seat near an emergency exit.
And tragically, his brother,
Ajay Kumar Rakesh, 45, was sitting right across the aisle on 11J. He didn't make it.
How did Vishwashkumar describe the crash itself?
He recalled the takeoff, then the lights flickering, a loud bang. He said the plane felt like it just sort of hung in the air for a moment. Then the impact. And the key thing, it seems, was how his side of the plane hit the building.
It hit the ground floor.
Yes. And that impact basically tore an opening in the fuselage right near his seat.
So he could get out.
He managed to unbuckle his seatbelt, push through that opening, and crawled out. He described being completely disoriented, injured, and seeing just flames and horror all around him.
Incredible survival. He was injured, though.
Yes. Burns, fractures. Treated at the civil hospital in Ahmedabad. High-profile visitors went to see him. The PM, Home Minister Amit Shah. His family in London, wife and son, spoke about his resilience, but also the trauma, the grief. Especially losing his brother. That was his first thought, apparently.
What do the experts say about how he survived?
Well, the aviation experts quoted seem amazed. It goes against the usual thinking about survivability at the front. It seems to be that very specific combination, being near an exit, and the way that part of the plane broke open upon impact, just defying the odds completely.
So, moving to the scene right after the crash, you describe it as apocalyptic. The rescue efforts must have been incredibly difficult.
Immense challenges. The sheer destruction of the hostel, the intensity of the fire from all that jet fuel, it hampered everything.
But there were heroes there.
Absolutely. You had the official teams, NDRF, the National Disaster Response Force, firefighters, police, working flat out. But also stories of ordinary people, local residents like Tofik Mansouri and Indrajit Solanki, just digging through rubble with their bare hands, desperate to help. Medical students from other nearby hospitals rushing over.
And the grim task of recovering the victims, needing DNA tests for many. That must have prolonged the agony for families.
A very difficult, painstaking process. Meanwhile, the investigation got underway quickly.
The black boxes were key, I assume.
Crucial. The flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, they were found relatively fast. One was apparently on the roof of the damaged hostel building.
So who's leading the investigation?
India's AAIB, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau. But they've got help. Experts from Boeing and from the U.S. NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, are involved. That kind of international collaboration is standard and vital here.
And are there any early theories about what might have caused it, based on the reports?
Several possibilities are being looked at very closely. One is a potential issue with the flaps.
Because it struggled to climb.
Exactly. Were the flaps set correctly for takeoff?
Yeah.
Did that warning system, the one that's supposed to tell pilots if the configuration isn't right, did that malfunction? That's one line of inquiry.
What else? Engine failure.
That's definitely being investigated. The plane had GE Aerospace GX engines. GE's involved, helping to see if there was any power loss during that critical 30 seconds.
Bird strike is mentioned too. Is that common there?
Ahmedabad Airport does reportedly have issues with birds. There was that Jeju Air incident cited as an example where a bird strike caused major problems on takeoff. So, could a bird have hit an engine or damaged a surface right after liftoff? It's on the list.
And human error, it always seems to be considered.
Always. Even with experienced pilots like Captain Kohli and co-pilot Sabharwal, takeoff is intense. They'll be looking meticulously at every action, every decision in the cockpit. Was there a misconfiguration, a delay reaction to an emergency?
What about the plane's maintenance? It was 11 years old.
Right. The reports mention it had a clean service record, but they also note that India's regulator, the DGCA, had actually ordered some extra checks on Air India's 787 fleet shortly before this crash.
Oh, really? That suggests maybe there were some wider concerns.
It raises questions, certainly. Whether those checks were related or if there were any underlying issues with the fleet's maintenance, that will be part of the investigation too.
And all this is happening with Boeing already under scrutiny, isn't it?
Yes, the timing is significant. There have been those whistleblower claims about 787 manufacturing quality. And this being the first fatal crash for the 787 model since 2011, it definitely puts more pressure on Boeing.
How has Air India responded? They're relatively newly privatized under Tata Sons.
They've publicly pledged full cooperation and transparency. They set up support centers, hotlines for the families, that sort of thing.
Back in Ahmedabad, the impact on the local area, Magani Nagar, it must be immense.
Devastating. Physical damage, people displaced from nearby buildings. The whole community is just mourning. Businesses shut, schools closed temporarily out of respect. Local temples, mosques, offering solace. And BJ Medical College losing students, losing that hostel. A terrible blow.
And the ripples, as we saw from the victim stories, they spread globally.
Absolutely. You feel the grief in South Asian communities in the UK, London, Leicester, Birmingham especially. In Portugal's academic world, mourning the exchange group. In Vancouver, mourning Emma Chen. Support efforts, fundraisers, memorials popping up in all these places.
Taking this kind of deep dive, going through all the details you've shared, it really underscores why we do this. It moves way beyond just a news headline.
It does. It reminds you that behind the technical aspects, the flight numbers, there are just people. Individual lives, families, communities, all interconnected across continents.
And it really brings home how fragile air travel can feel sometimes, despite its overall safety record, the trust we put in it.
Yeah. We've sort of walked through the timeline from those final seconds over Ahmedabad, heard the heartbreaking stories of loss, and that one almost unbelievable story of survival.
And the investigation that carries on, trying to find definitive answers, which is so vital for the families and for preventing future tragedies, the communities affected. Ahmedabad, Orpington, Gloucester, Lisbon, Vancouver, they'll carry this grief for a long, long time.
Definitely. Looking at this material, you see the devastation, yes, but also, I don't know, a reflection of our world now. how connected we are, how a single flight links so many different lives, how one event resonates globally. And you see incredible resilience, too, even in the face of such loss.
It makes you think, doesn't it? In this world where we're all so connected, maybe more than we realize, what's our responsibility? As travelers, as members of these global communities, just as fellow humans. When a tragedy like this happens, even if it feels far away, how do we make sure the lessons learned, the really hard, painful lessons, actually lead to change? To make things safer for everyone who gets on a plane? Something to really think about.